All right, guys. Appreciate you being here. Week 2, college football, 2019. It's great to walk in here 1-0. I thought last week's game was a heck of a football game. We played a really outstanding opponent in Virginia Tech. We had a chance in that game to play a lot of players. We played a lot of players on defense. As many as 8 different guys up front. I think this week as we move forward, we want to continue to increase the depth of our football team for the season. But I thought that the learning experience and the curve from that game coming out with that win was incredible for our team. It was something that we can really get back to work and coach off of this week so we can continue to improve. I think as we face Richmond this week, we know a little something about Richmond. Jim Reed obviously was the head coach there for like 9 years. Frank Leonard was there for 10 years. And, having known those guys for all that time when they were there, and of course here now, I understand, what Richmond football is all about. It's a wonderful school. It's a very prideful place with the ability to attract and recruit really good student athletes. And they've had great success over the years, not just as a whole as a season, but also in terms of playing Power 5 opponents. You flip on the tape from last year when they played Virginia, and you watch that tape, and it makes you really uneasy because they played an excellent, outstanding game last year against Virginia and looked really good. And so here we go into week 2. We're playing a football team that's got a lot of talent, is well coached, both sides of the ball in special teams, with a lot of tradition and a lot of pride. And they had an outstanding win last week, so they're coming in 1-0 as well. So this will be a great challenge this week, and we need to make sure that we focus and continue to improve in our program. So we're excited about it, and I'm happy to answer any questions for you.
Coach, in that vein, just talk about these next 3 non-league games. Is this something you can get the engine up and running, get a look at a lot of players, and so when you make the turn into the ACC in October?
Well, I just think that our goal against Virginia Tech, we wanted to play a lot of players on defense, and we did. And one of our goals is I think we want to have a little bit more of an offensive rotation. Really has nothing to do with conference or non-conference. It just totally has to do with the fact that we want to play as a fresh attack, aggressive program. And when you have more depth, you can do that. And then, of course, the wear and tear on the season, that becomes a necessity. And you don't want to be halfway through, 3/4 of the way through the year and trying to put new faces in the game. They really haven't played. Now is kind of the time. You're coming off a training camp, and they got a lot of reps and a lot of time in training camp. And we have some real talented guys on both sides of the ball and on special teams that we feel we need to have in the football game. So, that's our goal. I thought, like I said, against Tech, you saw that on defense. Now we're going to keep moving forward and hope to continue to add to that point. But in the same breath, whoever we put in the game has got to be ready and has got to be able to make plays. This is not, just let's take turns and go on the field routine.
When you prepare for an opponent, and I know you mentioned back during training camp switching and for VTech Wednesday, VTech Thursday. Do you work with the second team, the scout team? How do you get them ready for an opponent to run an opponent's scheme?
Well, so we meet with them. Like tomorrow, they'll come in the morning, and guys on the scout team will meet with the graduate assistants. So the defensive coaches will be meeting with the offensive scout team players, and the offensive coaches will meet with the defensive scout team players, and we'll prepare them within their scheme. And we do that for a lot of reasons, one of which is I'm not a big card guy. So I just think when you put cards up, people have a tendency to read cards and kind of tune out. Well, an inside zone is an inside zone, an outside zone is an outside zone, a gap scheme is a gap scheme, 6-man protection is 6-man protection. Put it in our terms so that our kids, whether it be on offense or defense, will play within our structure and play fast and get something out of it. So we have to just coach them a little bit formationally and some of the nuances. So we meet with them. And that's critically important. And we did that last week, and obviously we'll continue to do that this week.
Is that something that you do through film with your coaches? Is that something that the assistants are doing, the players are doing, and they're just reviewing film to
Yes.
learn about the opponent?
So every day they'll meet, they'll review film of the opponent and then review our practice. Any points like, for example, they want to make with the offensive scout team. Hey, we need to do this better. Show the clip from practice, and then show a clip from, last year's tape versus from that opponent, and say this is really, we got to do a little better. This is how they did it on the tape. You're in a foot race. You had a little bonus with Tech because we started the process earlier. We had three Virginia Tech Tuesdays, if you will. We're going to have just like Richmond, we're going to have one. So you gotta be accurate fast. You don't have these multiple days to kind of work the kinks out, and that's what happens in the season. You're in a race against the clock. So sometimes when you play an opponent that's very much like you, it becomes a lot easier. And the other thing is the film evaluation early on is always hard. Richmond's playing an option team last week. We don't get a lot out of that on offense looking at their defense against a wishbone team. So those are always the early season things that I think make it a little harder. Good, yeah, good. So far, I think we're in good shape, and for the kind of physicality of that football game, the speed and the physicalness of it, knock on wood, we came out pretty good. Oh, Joe Sprasio had a great game. He graded out a champion. He played fantastic. With McDuff, I tell you, he's making unbelievable strides. It's kind of really week to week right now because he looks good, really good, and he's coming back, and it's just hard to know, And it's gonna, we're gonna be having this conversation probably, for the next couple of weeks, and maybe came and saying, Coach, you said that 2 weeks ago, or all of a sudden he'll just be there. I really can't say for sure because I don't think but he'll be back and he looks great. It's just a question of timing. Yeah, lower body. Yeah.
This is kind of off the topic, but the NCAA rules on immediate eligibility for transfers.
Yes.
What was your opinion of it in general, and have you seen anything from it? Is it working out the way you thought? Are you better or worse?
Well, what I think about it is, I think that, I take the stance of the American Football Coaches Association that, everybody should have to sit out 2 semesters, and then they should gain that year of eligibility back again as long as they stay on course to graduate. And then they should have a very, very tight process for special exemptions for a very unique deal. Now, that has, to me, gotten out of whack. And, so you can't have free agency in college football. I've heard some things talked about, we'll have a one-time exemption. So what happens? All of a sudden in a program, 15 guys could leave. Well, what does that do for a football program? One-time exemption, you can't recover from that. Or other teams poaching players from your squadron for who knows what's going on there. You have an elite player and one of these schools comes in and poaches them. You can't do that. That's just ridiculous. And that commentary is ridiculous. All right, so and I don't have any problem saying that because I really believe that in my heart. And they talk about, well, coaches come. Yeah, that's fine. There's contracts and there's things in there too. Everything in life has penalties and consequences and things. Okay, and we got to stop always comparing 18 and 19-year-olds to whatever. That's not how life works either. All right. I think that you make a commitment, you make an obligation, whatever the consequences of that are, is what they are. Well, the consequences are you should put 2 semesters in the school you're transferring to, okay? And then there should be a very select, and I believe this, reasons for the exceptions to that. Because I think there are always exceptions. But the exceptions can't go from here to here. And that's kind of what's happened right now. And I just look at that like, there's got to be some transparency and consistency and criteria for that exemption piece. Because right now what's going on, to me, is bizarre. I think they went through a process where they sort of opened up some gates, and then they tried to tighten those back down, and then late now it appears to me like they're kind of opening them again. And we've been on both sides of that. We have guys that have gone other places, and we've taken some guys, and we've been on. I've been on the double side of this thing. So I don't know if I answered your question. I think I did.
Do you see anything in the ACC, any guys in the ACC who might be having an impact that it might reshape the conference at all, or no?
It's a tough question, just because I have to, as fast as you're asking me that, try to recall exactly, some teams I'm not on right now. So I'm sure there are. I mean, the simple answer would be, I'm sure there are. I want everybody. I believe in opportunity. I believe in people shouldn't be penalized, but there are consequences. That's why I really believe the American football coach's stance is about right. Where, to me, what's wrong with you sit out the 2 semesters where you go. Your APR should follow you there, and that school should absorb that APR, and then you should be able to earn that year back as long as you stay in good standing academically. And so that you don't lose a year, you just have to sit out for a year. And that's a consequence, and that stops it from becoming really chaotic, because that's what happens. And in the quarterback world, that's where you're seeing this right now. And I would tell you that, let's be honest, that very few people are out there. They're transferring because they're not playing. That's why they're transferring. They're not playing. There are very few, and there probably are a few where that's not the case. But the vast majority are playing time issues. Well, okay, but then
That's not mother with brain tumor or something like that. I mean, those are the exceptions you're talking about.
I just think there are real things that come up that are not right, and they have to be dealt with. But those are smaller in nature than larger. Most of these cases, especially you read about these high profile cases, right? It's about playing time. If they were the starting quarterback, they wouldn't have had those conversations. They'd be just fine where they were. Okay, so I mean, come on now. I just be careful. We got to just be careful that we don't ruin the playing field. This isn't pro football. You can't have free agency like that. It's not going to work in the college setting. That's just not life. And again, there's contracts in pro football. There's issues. So in college football, what do you have for a contract is you sign and you made a commitment and you can break that commitment. I do not think that we should hold anybody back. No, you can't go to that school, or I don't believe in that. I don't believe in problem if you transfer within the ACC. I don't have a problem with that. I just think it's real simple. You want to leave? You go sit out for 2 semesters and then you go play and get that year back. Get it back. I don't want to take anything away from anybody, but there's a small penalty that you have to pay, and you pay it, and you move on.
Coach, this being week 1 of the NFL coming up, BC's got a number of guys that I know have made it in and out of camp. Have you been in contact with those guys?
Yeah. Not all of them, but I mean, yeah, I get it. I hear it all through the grapevine, through everybody. But I'm really, really excited. Obviously, our 4 draft picks are on the active rosters, and then we have right now Mike Walker, I believe, and Jeff Smith, I believe, are both on practice squads. And I believe there's also a couple others right now that very easily will end up on practice squad over the next couple days to a week. So right now we have 6 players from last year's team that are on NFL rosters. Be it 2 practice, 4 regular, and possibly I think we could have another 1 to 2 here shortly. So it's really good. I'm really thrilled for those guys. I mean, they're great guys and deserve it, and obviously are doing a great job at the next level. So really, really thrilled about that. And we've got over the last 6 going on 7 years, but right now 6 years. I mean, I think something like 13 of 15 players current in the NFL are coming out of here right now, so which is a pretty cool deal.
And just in terms of their legacy and the development, I know you've touched on that a number of times, but the guys who are coming up now, the upperclassmen, where do you see their potential in some of those guys with week 1 of the books? I know it's kind of hard to determine.
I mean, we've got some talented guys, and they're going to have a lot of opportunity ahead of them in football, plain and simple. And I think, I love their leadership, and I love their passion for the game. I think they're about the right stuff. I keep saying it over and over, and I say it because it doesn't happen everywhere, but these guys are tremendous representatives of the university, and for all the right reasons. And on top of that, they're talented. So it'll be fun to see, where this group how this will pan out in the end, and the opportunities that they'll have to move forward.
Tanner in particular, he said that he was on the edge on his interception there, where he made probably the most athletic play a lot of us have seen But he was on the edge, and I know he played the interior next to Ray Smith.
Yeah.
What kind of determines if a guy can go play the edge versus the interior, and how's
Yeah.
that just line up for a guy like him?
Yeah, I mean he's mostly interior, but we still have packages where we want to put the best pass rushers on the field, and he's really come a long way and is one of our best pass rushers. So we rotate so many guys, and there's so many factors involved in this because you have your, let's call it like your first regular, your second regular, your first nickel, your second nickel, your first this, your second that, and those packages fluctuate based off of what's going on in the game, fatigue, injury, whatever. But he's a guy that we're going to plug along that defensive line in a lot of spots, and it was really fun to watch him make such a critical play. He's such a great story. He and Benny Lyons both. But I mean, Tanner, he didn't play for the first couple of years. He wasn't traveling with the team when he was here as a freshman. I mean, he paid his dues. He came in as a linebacker. He had to put a whole bunch of weight on, and then he went to defensive end, and then he had to go inside, and he just kept grinding, and was a team guy. And here he is now, a captain, making unbelievable plays, critical to our success. I love those stories, and he is a great student, a great human being. Is one of the highest character guys on the program, and one of the toughest. And you can't not like that story. It's a good story.
When you say he had to put on weight, that's all in strength and conditioning and
Yeah.
into the program. And,
Yeah.
and it's not just going to Chipotle or somewhere.
No, no, that's what I do. Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, it's a nutritionist. It's everything. But I forgot what Tanner came in here at, so I might misquote that. But I'm going to throw the number of around high two teens to maybe 220. To whatever he is right now, 290 or something like that. 285, 290. I mean, he's come a long way. He's put on it. Let's put it this way: he's put on at least 60 to 65 pounds here, and there's not really any fat on him. So, unlike me from that age to this age, he put it on the right way.
Anthony was talking about, he was pretty adamant about like the need for him to step into a leadership role. You talked about it.
Yep.
How have you seen that progress from, I guess not even year one, but the first years on the field to the way he was vocal and the way he kind of took the reins?
Yeah. I mean, if you had to ask me what excited me the most about Saturday's game, there's a lot of things, but I might start there. His leadership leading into the game, his leadership in the game, in the huddle, in the sideline huddle, on the sideline. He did an unbelievable job. And my hope is that that's something that he can hang on to and grasp onto, and that continues, because it was awesome. And I was proud of him. He did a great job with it. He really did a great job. And it was something he knew he needed to work on, and he did work on it. And week one, that got accomplished.
You mentioned that it was something that might have been missing the last couple of years.
Yep.
He had to be the one to do it.
Yep.
Like, where does that come from? Is that you guys mentioned it to him? How do you just do it?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we've been focused on. I think that's such a critical thing, and we've worked with him on that. I don't know who else has, but I know we have. I just think it's a maturation process. It's it's being specific and pointing out examples of where you need to have better leadership, and paying attention to how you carry yourself. And it's like anything else. Like, I'm the head football coach here. Like, whether I'm crushed about something, I can't let everybody know that. You know what I mean? Like, it's my job as a leader of the organization to be as upbeat and positive and strong and lockjawed as I can be. That doesn't mean there aren't times where, I'm taken back, or I'm down or something like that, right? That part of leadership is the ability to, you have to rise above that. When, in other words, the we's bigger than the me. The big picture is bigger, That's what's important to me. You can't be a leader and be self-absorbed. You've got to be worried about the guys on your right and the guys on your left, and that's hard to do. But Anthony's a great person, and I think young guys, especially when they're young, they're trying to be the very best player that they can be. And along within that, sometimes there's hard to be enough for somebody else. But when you're the leader, you're the quarterback. It's not just about you. you're the leader of the rest of those guys in that unit. And he's done just a great job with that. And part of that is he's becoming more and more comfortable with his role and more confident in his role, that he probably has, the more capacity, to pick you up, as opposed to having to just focus so hard on him. You know what I mean?
Is there things with Zay Flowers you can do that we didn't see in the Virginia Tech game? Are you
Sure.
kind of
Sure.
where he can grow his game?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he can grow a lot. He's just a young guy and just scratching the surface right now. But he's got the combination of unbelievable speed, quickness, and ball skills. And he's got a real football savvy to him. It's not too big for him. So, yeah, I mean, he's going to continue to grow, and I would expect that, become more and more involved, more and more around the ball. I mean, why not? And we've got some really talented young receivers right now. That's exciting. There's going to be a group of very good, talented receivers here that can do a lot. I mean, you got a guy like C.J. Lewis who's dealing with a little bit of a foot issue right now, and he was having a very exciting camp. And another freshman, Ethan Williams, and Jelani. I mean, Jelani Galloway's a very talented guy. So we got a lot of really talented young receivers that I think are going to be exciting to watch, in the very near future.
Richmond, they were part of that old Yankee conference.
Yeah.
Right? Do you remember the
Yeah.
old Yankee conference?
Oh, yeah.
Even when Jim Reed was coaching.
Yeah,
down there?
of course. Well, Frank Leonard and I were best friends, right? And so, I mean, he was down there at Richmond and part of that deal, and Coach Reed was down there, and oh, yeah, absolutely. Yep, and I've known a bunch of players that played at Richmond, and that's real good football now. It's really good football, the Midwest has the MAC, and, the Atlantic states, sort of the North has, the old Yankee Conference, the new Atlantic 10. I think it's the Atlantic 10, right? And that's the version of that level of ball. I mean, it's really good ball, and there's a lot of really good players that come out of there. And like Maine has had a recent really great run, and New Hampshire, of course, and Richmond. I would say, when William and Mary's had their share in there too. So there's a number of those teams that have really particularly had pretty good consistent years, and I would put the ones I just said up there as not just like a flash in the pan. They've had several years where they're playing a very high level of football, and I think this Richmond team has got some really talented players that really would, they could play a lot of places. They're good, and they've done a great job there. I've got a lot of respect. I'm a big let me watch the tape guy, and then I'll tell you what I think. And I've been watching the tape nonstop, and the more I watch it, like I said, just do yourself a favor. You guys can flick on, go watch last year Virginia. I think it was opening day, Richmond versus Virginia. Watch that tape, and you tell me what you think. I mean, the eye in the sky does not lie. It is what it is. You watch it on the video. I watched the video, and that was one heck of a football game now. And Virginia had a good year last year. It wasn't like they were playing a slouchy game or anything, and it wasn't just like big plays here and there. I mean, I'm talking about Virginia went on to win that game, but I'm talking about watch the line of scrimmage, watch what goes on there. You're going to see a talented, tough, hard-nosed football team playing really hard.
Thanks, Steve.
All right, guys, thank you.